Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys. The Champions League is about to return. This week we will be taking on Roma in the Champions League live from the Camp Nou on Wednesday. We're going to have lots of videos coming up here for you on the channel, and today we are going to be looking at Roma in a lot of detail. What exactly are we going to be facing? What can they bring to the table? We are going to be running the full rule over Roma and the threats they could pose over these two legs. As we learned on Saturday against Sevilla, no match is won on paper, no match is won before you step out there onto the pitch. We cannot afford to underestimate any opponent whatsoever, and specifically any opponent you face in the Champions League quarter-final is going to be a big test, no matter what. So we're going to go straight into it, guys, and analyse Roma's season so far, what they've achieved, what they've been doing, what their form has been like in their different competitions. When you look at Serie A, of course, they're third currently in Serie A, a long way, it has to be said, behind the two leaders vying for the title in Italy. They're 18 points behind Juventus and 14 points behind Napoli. In third position, they're 2 points ahead of Inter and 3 ahead of their arch rivals Lazio, but they still face a fight to qualify for next year's Champions League. The top 4 in Italy will qualify, and Roma are there right now, but nothing is guaranteed. In terms of their different records, in Serie A, they currently have the 5th best home record in the league, which isn't really too impressive. They haven't really made the Stadio Olimpico the fortress that it can be. You know, a fantastic stadium, a lot of history there, but only the 5th best home record in the league. They do, though, possess the 3rd best away record, only behind Napoli and Juventus this season. So Roma better away from home, statistically, than they are at home in the league this season. And in terms of their form right now, you wouldn't exactly say they're coming into this game on a red-hot streak. You know, Roma are currently 6th in the Serie A form table over the past 5 games. In those 5 league games recently, they've won 3 of them, including an excellent 4-2 away win at Napoli. That was a really good win, a really good performance, it has to be said, from Roma. But in that time, a really poor defeat to AC Milan at home, which was a bad one, and a disappointing draw as well on Saturday. That set them back a bit. They did rest a few players on Saturday, just like we did. Maybe they went into the game thinking about this one a bit too much. They dropped points just like we did, currently 3rd in Serie A. And as far as the League Cup goes, in Italy, they haven't really had much success in that this season. They lost at home in the round of 16 stage to Torino in the Coppa Italia, so they are out of the Italian Cup now this season. But obviously Roma have reached the quarter-final of the Champions League, a feat which shouldn't really be discarded. It's a good achievement. You know, they're the only Italian team, as well as Juventus, that have reached this stage, so certainly it's a good performance from them. They've done well to get here, and it is probably the highlight of their season so far. And to be honest, I'd actually say that Roma progressing and topping from their Group C, was more of an achievement than what they did in the round of 16 stage. So now we're going to look at exactly how Roma have reached the quarter-final. What have they done so far in the Champions League? Well, they were drawn in arguably the toughest group of this Champions League season, along with Chelsea, Atletico Madrid and Karabakh. Atletico Madrid, of course, under Diego Simeone in recent years, one of the best Champions League team out there. They've been to finals, they've been to semi-finals, they've been really tough opponents for anybody that meets them in the Champions League. Chelsea, of course, under Antonio Conte, had just come off the back of winning the league title last season, so it really was quite a difficult group for Roma to go into, and also a long trip to Azerbaijan to face Karabakh can't really be classed as easy either. In terms of how they got on in that group, Roma held Atletico to a 0-0 draw on matchday 1 at home, before they emphatically drew 3-0 with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Edin Džeko scoring a sensational volley in that game before destroying Chelsea, and I really do mean destroying them, 3-0 at the Stadio Olimpico. One of the best displays of the season by a country mile. Roma were imperious on that night. El Shaarawy scoring twice, one of those goals inside the opening minute of the game. Perotti added the 3rd goal, and they really did run riot over Chelsea's defence that night. A really massive win in their season. And despite losing 1-0 to Atletico Madrid at the Wanda Metropolitano, Roma managed to narrowly beat Karabakh both home and away, something which Atletico Madrid failed to do themselves, which saw Atletico drop into the Europa League, and Roma top the group over Chelsea in Group C on the head-to-head ruling. They finished with 11 points overall, and thanks of course to that first place group finish, they then earned themselves a more favourable draw. You know, Shakhtar are a good side, a very decent side, but obviously Chelsea finished 2nd and ended up drawing ourselves, so Roma got away with one in the last 16, and the first leg coming away from home, despite they took the lead through young Turkish midfielder Under, Roma lost that game 2-1 after conceding 2 second-half goals. But that goal that they got in that away leg really was colossal. Edin Džeko scored in the return leg. They only only won 1-0 at the Stadio Olimpico, but that in itself was enough to see them go through on the away goals rule and thereby taking Roma to the quarter-final stage, and it's a big achievement for them. So in terms of their league form, their Champions League run, I think we've learned a few things so far from Roma. We can make a few conclusions about what we've already learned from them and about the team that we're going to be facing on Wednesday night. Number one, Roma for me have proven themselves this season of being capable to produce some massive results, really good performances, some big displays against big teams, and on their day, they can compete with the best. They really, really can. They can grind out wins, they can be solid, they can come forward, they can defend, and as we're going to come on to, they really do have some key players which do have the quality to cause us problems. But number two for me, they're inconsistent. They are a very inconsistent team. They haven't really been able this season to maintain that really high level of performance, and you could say that a lot of their wins have been scrappy. They've been unconvincing. They've been 1-0 wins. They've been narrow wins. Maybe Atletico Madrid-like, but I just don't see Roma as a team perhaps who are that consistent, can show a lot of quality over both legs. They might show us one amazing performance, but I think, to be honest, it's really about which Roma turns up, and most importantly, which Roma we allowed to turn up. Now it is time though to look at Roma's key players. I did mention just then they do have a number of players who could cause us problems. They do have quality right throughout their squad, and they do have a number of really high profile players. We're going to start with their first line of defence, Alisson, their goalkeeper, and this man, ladies and gentlemen, will be leading Brazil in the World Cup in Russia. He is their number one goalkeeper ahead of Man City's Edin, and that itself is saying something. The 25-year-old goalkeeper, really highly rated right across Europe. He's been linked with a number of major clubs right around Europe, in the Premier League, also in La Liga as well. He's really highly rated. He makes some fantastic reflex saves, and I would certainly expect a really interesting battle between the likes of Messi, Suarez, and how Alisson can keep us out on Wednesday night. Then I would highlight Alessandro Florenzi, somebody who has suffered some injury problems during the past few seasons, but he has been back in action this season and has once again been very consistent and very impressive for this Roma team. Traditionally, of course, he is a right back, but he is somebody now who's been playing down the middle. Also for the Italian national team, he does play through the middle in centre midfield, and that basically outlines his creativity on the ball, his quality on the ball, and his intelligence really as a footballer, and a player, of course, that we only know too well, and certainly Marc-Andre ter Stegen wouldn't have forgotten this man, the guy that scored basically from the halfway line a sensational long-range goal, one of the goal of the year contenders 2015-16 season. That was a low point for us, but a massively high point, of course, for Roma and Alessandro Florenzi. Another player that I would certainly highlight would be their midfielder, Radja Nainggolan, a player that I personally don't really like, and that's strictly on a personal level, you know, nothing to do with his style of play. Well, something to do with his style of play, but not really about him in terms of the way that he plays, but more about his personality. He, of course, was the man to injure and really badly injure Rafinha in Rome during that same game in 2015, and he effectively ended Rafinha's Barça career after that injury. He struggled to get back to fitness, but before that, he was showing some really good signs, and for me, I would always blame Nainggolan for that, because it's not really the first player to be injured by Nainggolan's all-action style of play. But having said that, even though I don't really like his personality, I can accept he's an excellent midfield player. Really impressive. He's arguably Roma's best player, along with Edin Džeko, somebody who can play box-to-box. He can play in the number 10 position. He's capable of getting up and down the pitch very easily. He can break up play. He can join in the final third, whether it be creating or scoring goals as well. He's somebody in that midfield position that really can do it all, and we certainly need to be paying very close attention to him on Wednesday if he features. Now, I say if simply because he was subbed off after just 15 minutes in their game on Saturday against Bologna. He suffered a muscle injury and was reportedly at the time a big doubt to even play in the game on Wednesday. What I would say though is he has travelled with the Roma squad to face Barcelona, so we're going to have to wait and see whether he recovers in time. He is still a doubt to play, but if he does play, he is certainly somebody to watch and somebody we have to track. And like I mentioned, along with Nainggolan, you would have to say Edin Džeko is one of Roma's best players, and very much a household name, of course, known in the Premier League, playing for Manchester City. He's now come out to Serie A in the past few seasons and done really well, and he is the man who'll be solely responsible in some ways for scoring the goal or the goals that will knock us out of the Champions League. By far and away, Roma's biggest goal threat, and as Chelsea found out in the group stage, he he is capable of scoring in a number of different ways. It's not just about his head, it's not just about a big guy, up front, getting on the end of things, tap-ins. He really is capable of scoring some great goals, and he does have 4 Champions League goals to his name so far this season. He turned 32 last month, so certainly no spring chicken. He's getting on in his career now, but like I say, he is enjoying a good campaign this season. He's been good since he joined from Man City, 14 goals in the league so far this season, and just like with Nainggolan, you have to keep an eye on him. You've got to track his runs. You've got to be aware of Džeko, because he really can hurt you. And of course, there's other players as well. These are just key players that I personally have picked out, but they've got a lot of quality in their squad. The likes of Manolas, the defender, very, very solid, very highly rated. Daniele De Rossi, of course, a fantastic servant to Roma over the years, getting on now, but still certainly somebody with a lot of experience and a lot of know-how in this kind of game. And also Kevin Strootman, another good player in their midfield, somebody who again has had injury problems over the last few seasons. He's been playing well again though this season, a consistent player in their midfield. There's something like Perotti, a reliable player who can chip in with a few goals. El Shaarawy, a guy on the big occasion who's capable of stepping up. But again, there is some inconsistency in his game. But obviously, you talk about the players, you talk about their form, you talk about their league position. But the main question for me is, how exactly are Roma going to set up? What are they going to do? How are they going to, shape up in this game? And what exactly are they going to try and do with regard to this style of play? Now, we're talking a lot more about this and our own style of play combined in my tactical preview of this game, which will be coming up before the big game on Wednesday. But just a brief overview of what Roma are going to do. They play a 4-3-3 formation, which for me gets the very best out of the midfield. They've got good midfield players. It allows Džeko to be that real vocal point in attack, the centre of the trio up front, and it also brings their fullbacks into play. The likes of Florenzi, Kolarov as well has been good since joining from Man City. He's got a few goals himself this season. But for me, Roma are a really strange team, simply because they don't really seem to have a distinct philosophy. When we faced Chelsea in the last round, you know what they were going to do. You knew what the sort of type they were when they set up their team. They had a good shape. You knew that Antonio Conte would set up in a certain way. They'd absorb pressure and they'd defend in the Italian way. But with Roma, I wouldn't necessarily say they're a fantastic team defensively, and likewise, really, I wouldn't really say they're a sensational team going forward. They're solid in both areas, but nothing exceptional, nothing extraordinary. They're not going to score a large amount of goals. They're not going to concede virtually nothing. We'll get chances against them, and likewise, we should be able to keep them out. They've got a lot of quality in their midfield. They've got a very strong midfield, and I do genuinely think we need to monitor that. Busquets in this game is going to be colossal. He has to play, and it's really, really important that we win that midfield battle. But I personally think they've got a real problem when it comes to goals. Džeko is their main source. If he doesn't score, they're in trouble. They've got Perotti, they've got El Shaarawy. They'll try and chip in. But if you compare, those two players, Perotti and El Shaarawy, to Hazard and Willian that we faced in the last round, it doesn't really scare me. It doesn't really, strike a lot of fear into us. We've overcome Chelsea. Roma are next. And I do genuinely believe that we're favourites in this game. We're very, very big favourites, and rightly so. Roma are a very good team. They're solid. They're decent, but nothing exceptional for me. That might be doing them a disservice. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I just think as long as we turn up, we apply ourselves in the right way, we go into this one with a belief that we can win, but not overconfidence. We have to take Roma seriously, because they're not easy by any means, but we should be winning this one, and we will hope that we can do exactly that. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on Roma, guys. What do you think they're going to bring to this game? What kind of threats do you think they have? And like I say, there will be more videos coming up very, very soon where we look into the Barcelona plan, what we're going to do in this game, and what we must do to get the better of Roma and reach the Champions League semi-finals. I will see you soon, guys, but until then, as always, Vasca el Barça!